Hey class, this is Mr. Hofstad here with another video on how to keep your ledgers going for the simulation in our finance class. If you haven't already checked out the video on the pre-start plan, you should probably do that first because that comes first on the ledger. But if you've already done that and you're ready to see how things work when we're now into the simulation, you can tune in here. All right, so we've entered all of the information from our pre-start plan and the beginning of January into our ledger. And now the simulation has begun. So we're still technically in January, so we can get some more of these dates pasted in. So Control C, Control V, and you can actually select a bunch. I'm thinking I'm going to need a couple of these. All right, and what's next? So I have my factories that I've been given for free, these gifts, the factories and warehouse expansions that I've purchased with some of the money from my loan. And now the simulation begins. And the very first thing we do any month is pay our fixed expenses. So that's a little bit of a process because you will need to calculate how much, really. And what we're going to do for that is we're going to, right at the start of the month, this is actually something that's going to be helpful to do even before you do bidding for RMUs. Because as soon as I buy something, let's say I actually went and I bought some agriculture RMUs, we'll see that here my RMUs for agriculture are at 2 before I did any bidding. And that's actually all I need to pay fixed expenses on. The storage of RMUs and of FIUs at the start of the month. So I have 2 agriculture RMUs, 2 commerce RMUs, 1 and 1 for FIUs. All right, so as soon as I change that, and let's say I buy 10 more of these and it costs me, I don't know, $6,000. Just making up numbers there. As soon as I enter that, it didn't actually change it yet. It will change it next month. So that works out well. If you don't get your fixed expenses done right off the bat, it should have your starting numbers here as well. All right, so we need to calculate our fixed expenses. And to do that, we're going to go into the price info sheet here on the bottom. And this is the section we are interested in, our gameplay monthly fixed expenses. A lot of you will want to do this with paper and pencil or a calculator. You can actually use the blank space here though, and Google Sheets or Excel can work just like a calculator for you too. So I'll kind of show you how that might speed it up for you. All right, so to calculate our fixed expenses, we have to know how much of each of these items we own. All right, I'm just going to work through it like so. So for January, I know from my summary sheet, we'll start with the standard factories, that I have 2 agriculture and 2 commerce. So I'll go into my price info sheet, and I'm going to do a little equation here. This is going to be equal to the cost of my agriculture standard factory times 2, because I have 2 of them, plus the cost of my commerce factory standard times 2. And when I hit enter, it's actually already calculated how much those 2 and those 2 will add up to. All right, then I've got my automated factories. Actually, do I have any automated factories? No. If you look on the summary sheet, we've got none. All right, and I'm going to hit escape here because it thinks I'm trying to do a calculation, but I'm actually just going to leave that at 0 for this month. Basic warehouse. This one's always going to be applicable. You're paying $750 for agriculture and $750 for commerce at the start of every month for your starting basic warehouse that can store 10 agriculture and 5 commerce. All right, it doesn't matter if you're using both or not. That total will always just be add those 2 together. and that's going to be 1,500. And every single month, so if I'm doing this in the sheet here, I can actually just drag that across. It's always going to be, oh, no, that's not going to like it. We'll do a copy and a paste. And better yet, I'm going to paste as a value. So you saw when I did copy and paste and when I dragged it, it's actually using my equation and it's changing that. Google Sheets will do that. Excel will do that. And if you're running into that problem and you want to avoid it, you can always right click and paste as values only. It won't use your equation then. It will just use the number. All right, I'm getting ahead of myself. That's just my standard factories in my warehouse. I also have to pay for any warehouse upgrades. And on my summary sheet, it's a little bit tricky to calculate that. All right. It is possible, but if we go to our pre-start plan, that's going to be there for us a bit simpler. In the future, though, when I'm doing more construction, I need to keep track of how many additional warehouse expansions I'm adding on, because that's going to affect how much I'm paying for these warehouse upgrades. So as you hopefully saw, we had 5 agriculture. So my agriculture cost 800 per expansion, and I bought 5 of them. Plus, we had our commerce expansions and 4 of them. Right, so that's just off of these capacities. That requires a bit of math to calculate because each basic warehouse has 10, and each for agriculture, and each expansion will hold 8. You can find all that information here. That's the capacity increase. But if you've got your pre-start plan, those numbers are going to be a bit easier to work with. All right, but just know that in the future, as I add on warehouses, if I add on warehouses, that will need to be adjusted for my warehouse upgrade fixed expense. All right, so that added up pretty good. I'm not quite done either. I'm also storing those starting RMUs I had. That's going to be found on my summary sheet. I had 2 of each of commerce and agriculture, and FIUs 1 of each. So I'll quickly throw that in my calculator, which is the Excel sheet itself, equals, that starts the equation, and I can click on any cell, and it has that number in there, so 100, and I know I have 2 of them, so I'm going to go times the little star, 2. All right, but I also want to add on my commerce, and there's also 2 of those. 800 for storing those free RMUs, so maybe they aren't so free. They're more free. So this is going to, don't listen to that, it's just going to predict what I want to do, but it's wrong. My 300 plus my 500. All right, that does take a little bit of time. Once you get good at it and you're using Google Sheets or you're using your pen and paper, a lot of these are going to fly by. But the big thing to look out for is when you're adding in new factories, when you're adding in new warehouse expansions, or when your RMU storage changes each month, that you're adjusting those numbers. So now I'll let it do what it wanted to do last time. It's going to sum all of these numbers for me, and I can just hit tab or enter, and it did that for me. So that is my fixed expenses for January. A bit of work, but need to do it. Need to know how much your overhead costs, your administration, all of that is going to be for the month. All right, now we can take that number into our ledger. So we got to think chronologically what's happening. I'm going to get a bill first, and we can search up the fixed expense liability. It's a bill. It starts with number 2. All right, then we need to ask ourselves, all right, I know how much, but is that a debit or a credit? And you can always go back to our accounting equation when you're wondering, right? So we're looking at a liability. It starts with a number 2, which all liabilities do. And are we gaining a bill or are we losing a bill? Is it going up as a bill to pay or down? Well, they're giving me the bill, so that's going up. That's got to be a credit to my liability. So I'm going to credit that amount, 22,100. You can even control and paste it if you're working within. Oops, that did not like that. Paste as a value. When you're working within sheets, sometimes it's easier, sometimes not so much. All right, so I got my bill. When I got the bill, I needed to balance with something. I haven't paid it yet, so I'm not going to affect my cash. But when something is going to cost you money and you're not really gaining anything for it, that's going to be affecting our equity. And it's going to be a loss. So it's an additional accumulated loss account starting with 3. All right, and this is still a fixed expense. All 4 of these are going to be my fixed expenses for January. All right, and now our net worth or our equity has gone down. So I'm going to debit that additional loss account by this same amount to keep it balanced. Nice and balanced. And you can see, I always like to keep track of what's going on in my chart of accounts up here. Now I've increased my losses. The first time I did that was from my interest that I paid. And now I also have my fixed expenses. So all these equity things are going to be things I have to pay, these losses that aren't giving my company anything. They're not giving me resources or revenue. They're just these mandatory payments I need to make. All right, so I got the bill. Next thing I want to do is pay the bill. So I'm going to get rid of my cash. And cash is an asset starting with 1, which means that when I'm getting rid of it, my company's paying it, it's going out of us, I need to credit it. So credit the cash. That same value, and as you pay the bill goes away. So my fixed expense liability, my fixed expense bill goes away. When you decrease a liability, that means we are debiting it. Debit. And this column is my debit, 22,100. All right, that's it. That's my fixed expenses. And whenever you are looking at an account with a 2, a liability, one important thing you want to look at in your chart of accounts is that when you're done that transaction in the ledger, did it end off back at 0? And it did. Your liabilities, these bills, you're always going to get them and immediately pay them. So this section, anything starting with a 2, should end up at 0. And they did. All right, we paid our fixed expenses. The simulation goes on and we buy some RMUs. So we got to include our interest, which we had to do for our interest payments before. All right, then we paid our fixed expenses. We want to throw it in our summary sheet as well, because that's going to update our cash available up here. So I pay my fixed expenses. All right, I bought some agriculture. I bought some commerce, let's say. Maybe it cost me 4,300. Next thing I need to do is record this information. And there's a little bit of a trick to your RMU bids and the ledger. So if you go to your price info sheet, it actually tells you that there's this book worth for all of our assets, including all RMUs, which are $300 a piece. So when I bought 10 agriculture RMUs, I need to go and I need to, well, it's still January, so I'm going to start with the date. I am going to buy RMUs. Let's just call it agriculture RMUs. You can use any code or any acronym you want. I'm going to do agriculture RMUs. All right. And the first thing I do when I buy them is I actually receive them, right? Even before I pay them. My RMUs of the agriculture flavor are going up. I'm gaining them. All right. And since it's an asset, I'm going to gain it by debiting it. And I'm not going to, this is a really common mistake, I'm not actually going to gain RMUs of $6,000 value. I'm going to gain RMUs at their book cost, which is 300 each. And since I bought 10, I need to, well, you can do the math in here if you really want to. 300 times 10. That equals 300 times 10. $3,000 worth of RMUs. Right? Next, what do we got to do? So we have our RMUs now. How do we get them? Well, we actually received a bill. And that bill is our RMU purchases. COGS RMU purchases. Starts with a 2. So it's a liability. It's a bill that I'm getting from the supplier of these agriculture RMUs, from the farmer, I guess. And that bill is actually going to be for the full amount that I bid. That's the full 6,000. That's the bill I get from the farmer. All right. So we got to go, and we're crediting this liability because our bill amount is going up. We have a bill to pay. Credit your liability account, the full 6,000. You'll notice that we're still not balanced. All right. That isn't quite the end of it, but we got these. We got our bill. We're not going to pay for it quite yet. I guess you could, right? You could credit your $6,000 cash. But since the book value of what we gained is less than we paid, our company's actually taking a loss here. Another additional accumulated loss. These accounts, starting with a 3, right? They're always going to be there to balance your ledger, right? So if you feel like you're done a transaction and it's not balanced, probably because you're missing an equity account, either a retained earnings or an accumulated loss. All right, so when I actually lost this amount, my RMUs I gained were less than the bill that I received. All right, that should actually mean that my net worth goes down. So I need to debit my equity account. And I can use a little bit of a trick here. This number that's not balanced by, $3,000, negative 3,000, is actually the amount that I'm going to put in as my losses. That's one trick I can use. All right. If you can't see that, or you're not thinking like that, another trick you could use is we're going to subtract one from the other. 6,000 minus 3,000. Again, it's still balanced. Or you could use the old calculator, pencil and pen method. But for every kind of section of my ledger, I need the debits and the credits to be balanced so that my ledger stays balanced. So 3,000 plus 3,000 equals 6,000. We're balanced. All right, we can call these all my agriculture RMUs. Do I actually pay for these now? Probably. That's probably a good next step. I got the bill. I hand them my Visa or some cash or something from my account. So that's going to get rid of $6,000 of cash. So I credit, because cash is an asset. Getting rid of cash means crediting an asset. $6,000 of my cash. And now my bill goes away. My RMU, cost of goods. $6,000 bill disappears. So it needs to be debited because our liability goes away or decreases with a debit. All right, that's actually it for my agriculture RMUs. And I'll show you, it's not actually always this slow, right? I'll go through the commerce ones at a bit of a quicker pace and see how you can do it too in no time. So these are going to be my commerce RMUs in January 01. All right, and it's going to be exactly the same as my agriculture, just with different numbers. So I'm going to just copy and paste this title down. I need to have the same number of rows. I can even copy and paste this. Copy, paste. And then we go back to our summary sheet and we look at how many we got. They're 5. And a reminder, they all are worth 300. And we're gaining them, so we debit it. And it's going to equal 5 times 300. All right, how much did I pay for it? My summary sheet says $4,300. That's going to be my bill, which is a credit. Then it's out of balance. I can read up here it's 2,800, or I could go 4,300 minus 1,500. But either method gives me an additional accumulated loss of $2,800. Right, and then we have to pay our bill, so we get rid of our cash. The full bill amount, 4,300, and my bill goes away by the full amount, 4,300, by debiting that liability. All right, we did it. We bought our RMUs and we recorded them. Now we need to do something with them to sell them, namely convert them. All right, so one thing you can do at this point, if you've entered this in your summary sheet, even if you haven't done the ledger live time during the simulation, right? This is something you can do in pauses or breaks or after school. But the summary sheet is something you want to do immediately, because if I go up, I can now see how many RMUs I have to work with. And it's kind of weird because it's going to show in the February, all right? Because that's what I started January with. This is what I would start February with if I did no conversions and no FIU sales. So I've got 12 agriculture RMUs. We need to think about our conversions for a second. And if you go into the price info sheet, it'll show you how many RMUs are required per conversion. So my agriculture, regardless of standard or auto, single or pairs, takes 3 RMUs. And I have 12. So we can just do a quick calculation, right? What is 12 divided by 3? It's going to be 4 conversions. Got to make sure that I have enough factories to do that. So standard factories have a capacity of 2 conversions. I only have standard factories and I have 2 of them. And if each of those 2 factories can do 2 conversions, I'm able to do 4 conversions. So when the conversion sheet opens up, I'm going to submit a form for 4 standard factory conversions. Just my maximum capacity, I'm 100% efficiency. It also means that I used up all of my RMUs for this month. So if I wanted to do any more agriculture conversions the next month, I would need to buy some more in the bidding. All right, so that now means I have 4 FIUs of agriculture, no RMUs. All right, maybe I also buy one of these advertisements. We'll get to that in a second. We'll do a second set of conversions for these 7 commerce. All right, so in commerce, a couple of things. I only have 2 standard commerce factories. And on the price info sheet, it tells me that a commerce single standard factory can only do 1 conversion. Oh, we're running into a problem. 1 conversion, and we need to use 2 RMUs for it. So I can only do 2 conversions because I have 2 of these factories with a capacity of 1. And I'm going to use up 2 times 2 is 4 of my RMUs in doing so. So we'll submit that form as well. You can do it at the same time or separately. So 2 standard RMUs, and that's going to adjust. So I now have 3 leftover commerce RMUs. So already running into problems with my commerce. Maybe I bought too much, or maybe I didn't buy enough factories. That's why it's really important in your pre-start plan to kind of, right, come up with this game plan for how much capacity your factories are going to have, how many conversions you're going to be able to do. A lot of math and strategizing in that pre-start plan, which I apparently didn't do a great job of here. Better luck next time. All right, so I did 2, and I need to actually figure out what that costs. All right, and that's on the price info sheet. So I did 4 of these at 2,000. So I could actually just do the math here again. Equals 4 times 2,000. Or you can use your calculator. So that's going to be $8,000. Update my summary sheet. And 2 through my commerce factory. And that's going to be 3,500 per conversion. So 2 times 3,500. 7,000. Update the summary sheet with that cost. All right, these are all things that you need to be doing on the fly during the simulation. So as soon as you submit your bid, go into your price info sheet, find out how much that costs, because that's going to update your cash up in the top here, which will allow us to kind of budget appropriately, figure out how much construction we're going to be able to do. And if you're forgetting to enter these, your budgeting is going to be a bit harder to do. You're probably going to go into debt, into the red. All right, I want to explain the advertisements now. All right, when you submit a form, so I could have submitted both of these on one or one on each form. I'm going to say I did these in two separate forms, and I bought two separate ads for WebNet. Right, so that's going to allow me to get some ad boosts when I sell them, but it's also going to cost me money, and I need to look at the price info sheet to see how much that costs. Here are my costs. So I bought two WebNets. I have no auto right now, but I do have 4 standard factories. So I need to pay $650 equals 650 times. Well, I got 4 factories. All right, but I also bought 2 ads. So it's going to be charged per every factory, regardless of the type, regardless of what conversion form I sent it on. This is always every single standard factory in your possession and every single auto factory in your possession. All right, so if I would have had more, if I had an auto, I would also have to add that cost in. But right now it's costing me $2,600 per ad, but I bought 2 of them, so it actually adds up to $5,200. 5,200. And these costs of ads are going to be there regardless of whether we actually sell, regardless of how much we sell. So if you're using ads wisely, they're going to help you. But if you're buying them and not using them, it's actually going to be to your own detriment. And you got to watch out for some months where your ads don't succeed, when the consumers don't love your ad campaign and that actually ends up in debt. All right. That's my advertisements. I now need to record this all on my ledger. So I did my RMU bids. Now I need to go and enter some conversions. So still in January, I can copy and paste that. But now we are doing our conversions. Cost of conversion. And still in January, so I'll call it 01. Actually, let's call this egg conversion. Yes. All right. What happens first when I do my conversion? Well, first thing, I'm going to lose my RMUs. All right. And in my case, I'm starting with my agriculture. I lost my full 12 commerce RMUs. So I would need to credit, which is how I get rid of my assets, how my assets go down, credit, and I'm getting rid of 12 of them to make 4 FIUs. So this is going to be 12 times their book value. Always use your book value of $300 when you're doing anything in these RMU accounts starting with a 1. That's reserved for our book value. All right, so I got rid of 12 of these. That was 3,600 book value worth of RMUs. What happened to it? Well, it actually became our FIUs of agriculture, and it became 4 of them. So I got 4, so it's equal to 4 times, well, we go back to the price info sheet if we forgot, it's our book cost, $500. So 4 times 500 gives me $2,000 gained in FIUs. And that's not balanced. All right. And because that's not balanced, and that's kind of the end of that transaction, all right, that debit credit pair, I need to add a third line for my, is this a gain or a loss? Well, I gave up more value, book value, than I gained my FIUs. So this is actually a loss, an additional accumulated loss. and we're debiting it because my net value went down. And the amount is shown here, or you can do your subtraction, $1,600. So we're still balanced, but we're not quite done, because not only are we getting rid of our RMUs and gaining FIUs, we actually have to pay the factory to do this for us. And that cost us $8,000 this time to do these 4 standard conversions. So this is part of my COGS, and it's my conversions, cost of goods for conversions. And I have to have $8,000. It was, right? Yeah, $8,000 given to me, since this account starts with a 2, as a bill. So $8,000 bill for my conversions. All right. Again, if you're not confident in the debit credit, have this out in front of you and ask yourself, do I increase my equity when I lose this book value, or do I actually decrease my net worth and debit it? So I have to debit. Oh, sorry, that liability goes up. It's a bill I have to pay, so I credit it. So my COGS gets credited. That bill increases. I add a bill to the factory. All right, as that bill goes up, I get another loss. You'll notice that really at the start of the month, we got a bunch of losses. But don't worry, right around the corner, we're going to have a gain. So additional accumulated loss of 8,000. So my net worth went down by 8,000. My equity is debited. All right, then we pay our bill. So anytime you're using a COGS or something that starts with a 2, you're going to get a bill, you're going to credit it, and then you're going to get rid of some cash. And you're going to pay that full bill, that full $8,000, so that my cost of goods for conversions now disappears. It's paid off, and we're still balanced. All right, one thing to keep your eye on anytime you're doing conversions is you want to have 7 lines. All right, your RMUs turn to FIUs, you get a loss, you get a bill, you lose more, you pay the bill, and your bill goes away. 7 lines for every conversion. All right, I didn't just have agriculture, I also had commerce, but we can use copy and paste to our benefit. Remember, we want 7 lines, and we're going to call these our commerce conversions in January. And we can just use our copy and paste for this whole section. Our numbers will change slightly, but they're going to kind of follow the same pattern. Credit, debit, debit, credit, debit, credit, debit. So, maybe copy and paste wasn't the best because these aren't agriculture. These are my commerce. Oops. Commerce RMUs go down. Commerce FIUs go up. Quick fix. All right, so how many RMUs did I get rid of? Well, for 2 conversions that use 2 each, I got rid of 4. So my RMUs go away. 4 times 300, $1,200, right? Each RMU is worth 300, and I had 4 of them. How many FIUs did I gain? I gained 2 of them. And if you go back to your price info sheet, their book value is 500. Bit closer. All right, a bit less of a gap, but I still have to have $200 in loss. All right, and then I do my cost of goods conversion, $7,000 for this friend. So COGS go up. I get a bill for $7,000. Credit my liability. That is a loss. My net worth goes down by the full amount, $7,000. My equity is debited. Then I pay the bill. So I get rid of cash by crediting that asset account, and my bill goes away by debiting the liability account. And we're done our conversions. But we're not done all of our spending because we also bought ads. That's a quick little addition here. January, we got ads. Going to be 4 lines. I'm going to get a bill and pay a bill. It's pretty much the same for any liability other than conversions. I'm going to get a bill and pay a bill. So this is going to be my advertisements in January. Advertisements 01. January 01. February 02. So advertisements, I get a bill. That's, you can search up on this. You could look for your advertisements or your cost of goods. All right, and it cost me $5,200. So I gain a bill and I take a loss. So I need to go into my loss category, 5,200. And then I pay the bill. So my cash goes down, 5,200. And my bill goes away. So my advertisement bill from those people in marketing is now debited in full, and I am back to balanced. So really, what we've got in our advertisement, this cost of goods, is the same as this latter half of my conversions, right? It's an account starting with 2. You get a bill, take the loss, pay the bill, bill goes away. Same thing for your advertisements, same thing for your other conversions, right? Same thing actually for your RMUs, with the exception that in an RMU, you actually gain something. You gain the raw materials. All right, January's almost done. Not quite though. We have to now sell our FIUs. So I hopefully in the bidding, I submitted a form for a pretty solid price and got a pretty decent ad boost. All right, I could show you quickly here what's going to happen with your ad boost. Now, most of you are pretty good, but let's say I sold all 5. So you can look up here how many FIUs I have. All 5 agriculture and all 3 commerce. All right. And I sold 5. What's their total cost? You can do this by hand. You can do this on your calculator, or you can use Excel for it. So let's say I sold all 5 for, so the number sold first times the price sold. Maybe I sold them for $14,000. Right? And I got an ad boost of maybe 25%. So to find your boost, your bonus, you're going to take 1 and add the decimal of your percent boost. So point, we would divide 25% by 100 and get 1.25. Dang, that is what I made on my agriculture. And my commerce, maybe I sold them for even more. So this is equal to, I sold 3, and each of them was worth $1,700, $17,000. Wow, good month. And maybe this ad boost was only 2%. Maybe it didn't go well. So it's going to be 1 plus 0.02. So 1.02 for 2%. All right. Those are my FIU sales. So I need to now record that. All right. These are my commerce or my agriculture FIUs. So still in January. We got our commerce. Sorry, let's start with agriculture FIU. First thing that happens is I actually give away my FIUs. So I'm going to find my FIU for agriculture, and I'm going to get rid of all, how many did I have? 5. Did I only have 5? Yeah, because I had 1 left over and I made 4. So I got rid of all 5 of these. All right. If you don't want to do the math, you can actually go and look up here and see how many FIUs of agriculture I have. 2,500. All right. If you don't want to go scroll all the way up, you can also just do a quick 5 times 500, 2,500. All right, so you'll notice that I put this in my credit column because it's an asset that I got rid of. So I credit my asset account. I got rid of these FIUs. All right, But did I gain anything for that? Yes, I did. I gained cash. Cash account is going to go up, which means it's a debit by the full amount that I earned, 87,500. 87,500. And you'll notice it's not balanced, but this time it's a positive number. And that means that I need to actually increase my 3 account equity, but this time it's not a loss, it's retained earnings. And this word retained earnings really just means the profit that my company made that I'm not giving to my owners or my investors, because we don't have any of those, but I'm kind of retaining it within my company to reinvest in more factories, more infrastructure, and grow my company. And that's really our only positive equity account in this ledger in the simulation. All right, so my net worth actually went up here. So my equity gets credited. And I can see that I actually went up by 85,000, because the book value of what I sold was only 2,500, but I got 87,500. So I go up by 8,500. All right, that's it. Just 3 lines for selling these FIUs. And we'll just copy and paste. You can actually use Shift to click 2 of them and copy both of them together, and then paste both of them over. Voila. But I also sold my commerce, so I will do the same thing. January, commerce, FIUs, 01. Copy, and we're going to go 3 lines. And I'll just copy and paste all of this. And it's not agriculture, it's commerce. Ooh. Commerce, FIUs. How many did I sell? 3 of them. Each cost 500. 3 times 500, 1,500. How much cash did I gain? That is $52,020. I'm just going to copy that one over, paste it as a value, and it'll tell me how much extra money I made. Is that $127,000? That doesn't seem right. Let's just do our old this minus this. 52,000 minus 1,500 is 50,000. Something went wrong. That's okay. It happens sometimes. It probably wasn't happy about me copy and pasting that. Let's just back up a step. Should have been balanced here. We were. See, things just happen with these sometimes. And if you do run into a problem like this, you can come and ask me for help, or you can actually just keep going back until the problem goes away. Usually it's something with a negative or overwriting a cell that you shouldn't have. So where did my problem come from? 2,500. So that's looking good. Then I got my cash. Still looking good. Sorry for the delay. All right, so my retained earnings were 85,000. We're back in business. Copy this. We'll go for commerce again. I remember all the numbers, so I'm just gonna replicate all of that. Commerce is going down, so I credit it 1,500. Cash goes up. I won't be lazy this time. It was $52,020. And then my retained earnings is that difference shown there, 50,520. Well, maybe sometimes copy and paste isn't the best option for the values, at least from one page to the other. Maybe the old-fashioned type it in the long way is better. Oh, I made a little typo. No, we're good. All right. Sold our FIUs. Really, we're basically done our ledger for January. The only thing now that we could do is construction, and I can use this number to kind of guide me. All right. And yeah, since that's a pretty decent chunk of change, I might decide, okay, I want to build some autos. Maybe I want to stay a little bit in each industry. Maybe I want to focus all on agriculture. That's really up to you. You will need to calculate the cost yourself. So if I did 2 auto factories for agriculture, we go and we look at the construction cost for an auto factory in agriculture, 25,000 each. So I'm going to multiply that by 2. That's going to be $50,000. And my cash went down. Maybe I buy some gold. That's going to be a whole nother ball game. I'll save that for another video. All right, so then you enter your construction. And maybe I'll save that for another video too, because these are the base. Construction is a pretty basic one. I'll do construction. So in January, I have my construction. Construction. All right, so with construction, you hopefully know and remember that when you build it and it's not on the pre-start plan, you have to wait for it to be complete. And these autos aren't going to be complete for 6 months. So we do count the month we start as January. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. And then we would finally receive it in July. So because I don't actually receive the asset yet, I'm actually going to put this construction cost into an accounts receivable. All right, accounts receivable are these future asset accounts. So under our assets, we either have numbers starting with 1, those are current assets, or numbers starting with 4, those are future assets. And since my 2 auto factories aren't going to be done or complete for 6 months, I'm not going to say that they're my assets yet. They're future assets. It's accounts receivable. But I am gaining it, so I should actually debit this because I'm gaining this future asset. All right, so I go up by 50,000. And where did that money come from? That's my debit. That's the destination, but our credits are source. Well, we paid cash for it. All right, so we credit our cash for 50,000. All right, and that's it for my construction. Yeah, all that's potentially left, and honestly, we're on a roll. Why don't we just cover everything that there is to cover from the summary sheet anyways? Let's cover our gold. All right, so maybe I did say, all right, I got enough money, I want to buy gold. I don't necessarily encourage this in the first month in January. Probably focus on more construction if you can, or maybe paying off your loan if you can. But if you did decide to go the gold route early, all right, maybe I'm putting 5,000 in gold. This 2,500 is what I'm going to earn in the next month. So I don't have it yet, but it is going to appear in the next month, in February. So gold, still January. All right, we'll call this our buying gold or gold in January. So I'm going to first receive some gold. There's a category for it in the order of 5,000. And since it's an asset, starting with number 1, I debit it when I gain it. All right, so I got my gold and I paid for it in cash. So I credit my cash account 5,000. So I'm just turning cash into gold essentially. But chronologically, I would get the gold first and then I would pay for it. All right. Then here's where that number below comes into play. This is actually going to, in the future, be turned into more gold or more cash. So what I want to do is throw this $250. Actually, I would do that in the next month. So I'll make a separate video that'll highlight gold, which is one of the more complicated ledger accounts, as well as taxes and any other extra tidbits for you. All right, so that's it. Really, once you got this done, we can kind of just help ourselves out. Oops. And set ourselves up for the next month. Maybe we won't copy January, but maybe we copy all of this. All right. And if you don't like dragging like I'm struggling with right now, one way that you can select a large group of text is select something in the top left corner of it, scroll to the bottom of what we want to do. So maybe I go all the way to my cash, and then you're going to hold shift first. So click shift and hold shift, and then click the other bottom right corner. And now I can copy and paste this. And I would just call that all February. One little annoying bit is you're going to have to go and you're going to have to change this to 2. And then you can copy and paste it below. Then you got your February, copy and paste below. But still, everything's set up and ready to go for me in February now. And it's going to go a lot faster than typing it all in. Just going to go through our debits and our credits. All right, I hope you found that useful. Important things to keep in mind. Make sure your ledger's balanced. Double check your, I have negative RMUs. Well, that's an issue for another day. That probably means that I forgot to record my RMUs that I got for commerce at the beginning. I did. But apparently I sold more than I had. You should never have a negative asset. So I had 600 for, may as well just give you a little tidbit. If you do run into an issue with something negative here, go into ledger filter, look at these commerce ones. Oh, it already was there for me. RMUs commerce. Why are we negative? Well, I started with 600. Then I converted 1,200. Oh, so somehow when I bought my RMUs, I didn't record them in the right account. So if I go to when I bought my commerce RMUs, I called them agriculture. Problem solved. Now they are the correct commerce. And now I have these leftover commerce and no leftover agriculture, like I said I had a second ago, which is in agreement with my summary sheet for February. I have 3 RMUs left for commerce, none for agriculture, and no FIUs left over. So my FIUs are 0. All right, shows you how much gold you have, your accounts receivable, which is going to be your construction or potentially your gold retained earnings, your gold interest in later months. All right, then you got all your assets that you've built, all your factories and warehouses, how much loan you have left. All right, how much money you've made, retained earnings, probably from FIU sales, maybe a little bit from gold, and then all your expenses. So keep track of these numbers. Everything wants to be positive or 0, except for your account starting with 3, and preferably the losses. All right, that's it for today's video. I hope that you were able to follow along and learn something. We'll make an advanced video for some of the trickier calculations and recordings later. All right, enjoy.